Hey everybody, it's been a minute. MiniMovesCards here. So the month of October is ending up. So we just passed our last weekend of store championships, and at my third one of this month, I actually did end up getting a Mirabell. I made top 8 into then top 4, lost out. I was playing Blue Steel, a last one decision I made in the morning. A friend of mine was supposed to play Amber Steel, but he backed out to go watch the Ravens play in Ohio. So I decided why not be able to use my Steel cards. I haven't played Blue Steel since set 3. That was one of my favorite decks next to Red Blue. So I thought why not give it a shot. I've been really liking what Blue Steel's been looking like as of this set, where I used to just kind of build up and then play high impact threats, like, it's Giant Tinkerbell Fairy, playing Automata Steel, playing a 7-drop Hades, again, one of my favorite cards in the game overall. So I'm very happy with my results for sure. Getting one of these and not losing to Diablo for the third set champ in a row was really neat. It had some pretty impressive stuff going on. I'll give you guys a round of my matchups really quick. I played against round 1, which was Blue-Purple, which was a 2-0. Played against Green Steel the following round, which I lost 1-2. Round 3, I played against, I believe, Purple Steel. Then round 4, I played against Red Purple. They had double Maleficent's Queen's Castle out, and I outraced them. And then round 5, I ended up IDing with my opponent. Going into top 8, I played against another Red Purple, and I just outraced them again. And then that's where I lost in round 4 to my, or in top 4 to my round 4 opponent. We rematched up against each other, and then he beat me that time around with his Red Purple. But overall, I had a lot of fun. We got a couple packs to crack into and a deck profile to look at. So see you guys in a little bit. Going into the pack opening here. So for getting top 4, we got 2 packs of Shimmering Skies and then 3 Rise of the Floodborn. Again, I own everything out of the first 2 sets, Rise of the Floodborn and the first chapter, just because that's when I had a lot of access to getting a product. When it comes to nowadays, I kind of just get the primary cards I need. Of course, I would love to get own 4 of everything again, just so it's easy for me to make decks and try anything out that I think might be interesting or fun. That just kind of makes everything convenient, not having to search for stuff later. Wish I could have got first place. Would have got 20 packs, would have been crazy. But I don't know, maybe we'll pull something really nice out of here. I always appreciate pulling cold foils. Those are some of my favorite things. Since we have an uneven amount, I'll start with the Rise of Floodborn. Let's go with Raya. For those who don't know, I am Southeast Asian. So the Raya, the Last Dragon movie, took a lot of East Asian, or just Asian themes in general, from like Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, all that fun stuff. Specifically, I'm Cambodian, so it was really interesting to see a depiction or representation of my culture to a certain degree. Granted, I'm not the most into my culture, but alas, I have an appreciation for it regardless. First card is Go the Distance. I can kind of see there's like a printing error on these cards if I reflect it right on my end. We have Radigan, Gumbo Pot, the Queen, great card. Ship the Teacup, Hercules, which used to see amount of play. The Green Daisy Duck, which also used to see an amount of play, being able to discard your opponent's hand and being a 2-quest are really powerful. Launch, Fairy Godmother, Chief Bogo, another one of these coming out in set 6. Basil, one of my favorite Lorcana cards in general. I'm looking forward to the next set Basil that's coming out, the green one. And then a Hollow Foil Bell. Not exactly the bell that we'd look for in cold foil, but something. Let's go with another Rise of Floodborn, and we're moving on to Shimmering Skies, just to keep it a little bit different. Ooh. We have Sleepy, Merlin Crab, always great. Go the Distance, another Radigan, so 2 packs in a row. Another Go. This is looking awfully familiar. Okay, last the cannons. Okay, the fact that we pulled like 4 of the same cards out of this pack is kind of ridiculous. I love this Cogsworth. It gives all our reckless characters the ability to exert the game of lore. It never saw any play, but it's a really funny build around. This actually did see a decent amount of play back then. The 3-cost Singer 5 Gaston as another way to kind of sing like Ariel, to get some good tempo swings out. The Grand Duke, which has seen very, very fringe like local play. And then, ooh, Tiana. super rare. This came in the starter deck, but it definitely did see some meta play at one point, which is really neat. And then a hollow foil bounce. We got 2 mini scuba divers heads. I kind of missed the art cards that they did, because they were introducing locations in set 3, so they used that as an educational tool, which is nice. There used to be a Donald Duck like art card that someone like made themselves, but I thought it would have been like a really great idea had it actually been put into Lorcana. But anyway, going into the next pack, Rancis Flugger Butter. Kenai. You know, right as the set came out, I had actually just watched the Brother Bear movie, so like now I actually know these characters. Hypnotic Strength, not a terrible card. 2 ink, 2 draw a card, and then give something challenger +2 is neat. Flora, yeah, it's pretty alright. Can be like a 3-mana 4/4. The fact that Quest for 1 is a little bit weak. Royal Guard, which, I mean, back then we used to play Eudora, the 5-cost 1/9 in Amber in the Mufasa decks because it's a big body, so I wouldn't put anything past this card. King Candy. I actually own the enchanted copy of King Candy, and I tried to put into the Blue Steel deck, but it just didn't make enough sense. Glimmer versus Glimmer. Interesting removal in if you were to play a sealed environment with this set, if you play Draft. Magical Aid. Neat card. Sven, which has seen some play in an amount of aggro decks for sure, just being able to ready your character so it can't get challenged. Ooh, I actually needed more of this Maximus, I think. It hasn't seen any play, but it has a very similar ability to the 2-cost Flynn Rider. So that's neat. It's a shame that it dies to a Madame Medusa. And then, ooh, a Madame Elephant. That's nice. I actually used this card in my Blurple deck a while back ago. I didn't make a deck profile for it, I should have. But yeah, very interesting card. And then an Obscurosphere Cold Foil. This Cold Foil feels a little bit weird. Feels a little bit thin. That's okay. We had 3 Res of the Floodborn, so we're going to end off with Res of the Floodborn. Even though I'm more interested in what's in this Shimmering Skies pack, just because I don't own everything, just the majority of stuff. Let's get rid of this. Maleficent Gateway. Donald Duck Daisy's Date. Healing Touch, which is a terrible card. White Rabbit. It doesn't have a lot of build around, but a 3-mana 3/4 isn't terrible. Night Howler Rage. Neat card. I wish it was a song though. Dopey, the 7 Dwarves. Really neat that some of them have actually been seeing play. I like the location the most. The mind is really interesting to be able to like act as removal. Another King Candy. Mother Gothel, amazing green card. I love these cheap characters that have the additional ability to pay more ink to then get an additional effect. I think that's really neat, giving them utility. I played this in a Amber Emerald deck that was using Songs and Bouncing, so using this as a way to put your opponent behind was really neat. Merlin's Cottage. I misplayed with this card a lot of times. I thought that it would let me play the top card of my deck at one point. I never did that in tournament, but it was something I thought about in deck building, and I was like, oh wait, this doesn't do what I want to do. But it has seen some play in Blue Steel Wheels as a tech card. Food Fight. Sir Ector. I don't know if I own a playset of this, so I'm going to put this in the side. Oh, we put a legendary. We put a Merlin. This is actually one of the first legendaries that I bought a full playset of because I thought I'd end up using it in decks. And then a hollow Donald Duck Daisy's Date. That's neat. But we did get a legendary, so I mean, that's really sick out of 5 packs. Especially coming from different sets too. I wish it was the Anna, the green one, but I do need a playset of her and I only own 2 copies. But moving on to the last pack. And sorry if I made this pack open a little bit long. I just like to, discuss, give you guys something to interact with me about, and so you can hear me. Sneezy, Jimmy Cricket, saw a very strange amount of play at a time. Boone, Verana, Cruella de Vil. I love this card as a tech option just to out things like Diablo and Mini Surfer was really big. Tiana, Nick Wilde. Oh, I missed this card. You Can Fly, Pick a Fight. More Wreck-It Ralph coming in the upcoming sets, I'm excited. Queen of Hearts, the Flynn Rider, a base that escapes your menace, and Peter Pan's Dagger. Okay guys, well, that was everything for the packs, so the next time you're going to be seeing the deck profile really quick. Okay, so here's the deck profile portion of the video. So we're gonna start off with the low end curve. So we played some anti-Diablo outs such as Fire the Cannons, played 3 copies of it, and we also played 3 copies of Developer Brain. You're gonna see in this deck list I do a lot of 3-ofs. It's because within your 60 card deck, that means there's generally 1 in 20 if you run the 3 copies, and then when you're doing your mulligan, if you're looking for a specific card, you end up seeing 14 cards of your deck. So there is like about 6 card difference between if you find it or not within the 1 in 20, but just typically cards you want to see sometimes, but not all the time. But you typically hold the one that you do end up seeing within your first mulligan if you need it for that matchup. And we have the standard 4 Popsicle and 4 Fortisphere. These are going to go with your Hiram, of course, being cheap items that draw you cards. This is a Chica version of the deck, so this is why I play Developer Brain instead of something maybe like Visions of the Future, which searches for more cards. It's because I wanted to be able to always see Chica, even though I'm not playing 4 copies of it because I don't want to draw multiple of them. Having the option to see 2 cards deeper on turn 1 to try to pick out how your turns are going to go is really important to me, and I feel like it came up a lot during grindy game situations. Moving on to our 2-cost characters, or 2-cost cards in general. Our other Diablo out because we want to not lose to Green Steel, which we ended up doing too anyway, but we didn't see them as necessary. But 3 Magic Broom. I really like this card a lot because it gains evasive during your turn, so you can use the challenge to Diablo, and it doesn't die to Diablo Sing Like the Storm Rage on since it has 3 health. So it can punch for something and still stay on the board to quest later. So that's why I liked it a lot, and it helps for your aggro deck matchups too. Then we have, of course, 4 Mr. Shmee. Aggressive quester, really good body to attack into stuff, all around great. Helps your allocations and anything chunky. And then the All-Star of the deck, of course, 3 Chicha. I was calling her Chica the whole time. But this a lot of time is something that you always want to see on turn 2, as well as when you don't see Hiram or your Popsicle and stuff like that. This helps fill in that void of engine since we're not playing Whole New World. I feel like Whole New World as of the moment is kind of poorly positioned coming to the wrap of set 5. Just because when you're dumping your hand, if you're in a matchup where the Whole New World them, you're going to be playing from behind. And if you're in a matchup that's control oriented, a lot of the time those control decks can out your stuff. So you're putting yourself at a big disadvantage when it comes to pacing. So I didn't want to take that chance. And also green is pretty popular, so Ursula just hitting the field and taking a song from your hand can really hurt a lot if you go into that game plan. Of course, we have 4 Fishbone Quill to go with our Hiram, always being a turn 3 ramp. With that in mind, we always again want to have this turn 3 ramp, so we're playing 4 Mickey's Detectives, or maxing out on those. It's because with our Chica, since she has support when she quests, it turns Mickey into like a 3-3 basically, and that helps against aggro or any other mid-range kind of decks trading into stuff. And I like having a body that also quests just to, get closer to the win condition. And our other 2 cards on 3 is 2 copies of Pete, Games Referee. You don't always face matchups where this is important, so I just wanted to make sure I have an amount of them so when I do see one, I can hold it for the important turns where somebody may be prepared me or they are looking for a particular out. We used to play another card in our 3-cost slot for the event, but it ended up being really lackluster, so for the deck profile I cut it and just made the changes ahead of time. Our only 4-cost is Hiram. Generally speaking, turn 4 is kind of weird for this deck because you're either playing 2 2-cost cards or you're always guaranteeing your ramp. So you end up being in positions where after you've Mickeyed, as an example, when you're inking for the following turn, you're going to have 5. So that's where it's ideal to match Hiram with a Popsicle or a Fortisphere or a Cannons. Yeah. Almost no blue decks play without him, so going into our 5-cost, we're keeping up that same mentality with 3 Donald Duck focused Flatfoots. We don't want to use our whole hand, we don't want to fish one every turn, but Donald Duck is such a great body for being a 3-4, and just being able to put the top card of our deck in the info without having to commit anything additional, like Tipo might, or how Tipo does, or how One Trip Ahead makes you lose a card. I like these just being the ramp in themselves. And then 3 copies of Let It Go, because this deck lacks hard removal, so it's hard to out things that aren't exerted already as is. And trying to reach a damage threshold with things, especially with like resist, can be really difficult, so we just wanted to make sure that we had this. And it sets up some really good tempo turns, being able to sing with our Donald, with our Let It Goes, just being able to remove stuff without having to actually spend the ink for it. Our last 5-cost card is 1 copy of Grab Your Swords. It comes up versus aggro sometimes, but aggro is in such a good spot that a lot of the things don't always get banished by just 1 Grab Your Swords. So they can typically reestablish, so that's why it's not the greatest, which is why we're going to go into our 6-cost cards really shortly. But it's not a bad card. I just keep it in here as a 1-of, so people know at least it's in my deck, so they have to kind of respect it. Going into the 6-cost cards, the reason why I talked about Grab Your Swords in that way is because we're maxing out on Tinkerbell, Giant Fairy. She's great at clearing the board, of course, with her on-play ability, as well as her ability when she challenges stuff. It puts your opponent in a weird spot where if they know that they want to quest, but they can't because the fairy is going to challenge it, and then deal 2 damage to another character is really important. And as well as just being a 4/5, so red players can't remove it with something like Madame Medusa by itself, and they need like Ice Block or something. As well as just being another body that quests for 2. It's a very large swing in tempo when you establish her on the board. The next 6-drop that we're playing in the deck is 2 copies of Ariel, Treasure Collector. She's really good into a lot of matchups, just being something that has ward, and since she quests for a lot, if you have a lucky dime out, usually you'll have more items than your opponent, so you'll be able to use her ability to lucky dime for 5. So you can put your opponent behind like that. So only colors that can really out this is red, being with Be Prepared. On top of that too, she's not a terrible body. Being a 3/4 isn't the worst thing in the world, so sometimes you can quest with her naturally and your opponent really can't remove her. You wouldn't play more than 2 copies though, just because you just want to see the 1 when needed for the Lucky Dime combo. But again, it isn't bad if you draw it just to put onto the board. The last 6-drop, which is what used to be Benja's, is 3 copies of Cusco. This deck has somewhat of a hard time getting around locations, just being able to challenge into them. We have some big stuff that we play pretty quick, but we'd rather quest with them just to get our lore points up and be aggressive. This also helps out items, so when you're playing into a blue-red matchup, of course, you can put the dimes in the inkwell instead of putting them in the discard, which is really important, because unless they're playing stuff like Mufasa or have the second one, they won't be able to win the game as easily as before. And the 4-cost ability to give all your characters resist +1 until the start of your next turn is something that can come up. Going into the last couple pairs of the deck list, we have our 7-drops, which is just 2 Lucky Dime. A lot of the time I actually try to hold this card in my opening hand if the matchup calls for it. I'd rather not mulligan it and trying to look for it later or put it to the bottom, like Developer Band or something. And then the other 2 7-cost cards is 2 Hades. Again, as a 2-quest body, it's pretty well statted. It does die to Madame Medusa, but you know, it's just great removal and it trades into aggro stuff really well. The last cards are 2 Tamatoa. A lot of blue steel decks will typically play 4, but those are the wheel versions. For me, I just wanted 2 copies because you're not really ending the game with Tamatoa and a bunch of items like Forester and stuff like that. It's nice if you can, but it's really just another big body to apply pressure to my opponent and adding back resources. But yeah, so it's a 60-card deck. I wouldn't make any immediate changes to it, but there are things you can always consider. I always consider more Lucky Dimes if you're facing a more controlled metagame, and you can consider more Grab Your Swords if you really think it's going to help you into the aggro matchup. And then maybe a 4 Chica. I just didn't want to draw too many of them. This deck, I believe, is 16 on Inkables, so it's nothing too drastic. Definitely less than any blue-red decks in the format. But yeah, I think the deck performed phenomenally, and I know there's not a lot of time left before the next set, Azureth C, but it's a great thing to always keep in mind, and it represents itself well. As long as you're a good pilot and you practice it and you know what your game plan is going into all the different colors, you're going to succeed. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and if you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below. I love playing all different sorts of colors and decks, and this just happens to be one that got to pay off today. So have a great one, guys. Best of luck on your polls.